happy. Welcome to the Colorful Homeschooler Podcast, where we parlay on productivity, personality, passions, education, and theory. I'm a lover of Jesus, a wife of 20 years, and a homeschool mama of 4 special needs boys who keep me constantly active. I'm so glad you're here to join me. Pull up a chair. There's space for you at this table. Welcome back, everyone. So, if you've been listening, you may already know that I am graduating my first child from our homeschool, Salt and Light Homeschool, in May of this year. I thought it may be helpful, encouraging to those of you just entering the homeschool garden, or perhaps stuck in a trench year, where it feels like every day is a rainstorm. For you all to hear the things you may be thinking when your firstborn is nearing the end of the homeschooling journey with you. So here I am to share my thoughts with you. Again, if you've been listening, I try to be real, practical, and pretty vulnerable in each podcast, so you'll get the relatively unvarnished look at how this is hitting me. As we enter our last semester of being teacher of all things and student, it doesn't escape me that much of what I assign has the post-determining adjective last in front of it. Now, while some of this is good, I'll admit, this is the last semester I will have to check every single thing he says that he completed. Most of it hits my heart. Hard. The first day back from Christmas break was January 6th this year. We always eat breakfast as a family, and at that morning's prayer, I prayed for my son's last semester. I hadn't fully immersed myself in that fact until I prayed it, and my emotions exploded. I had to excuse myself for a moment. When we began to sing our hymn, which is how we begin each day's lessons, the realization that next year when we all sang the morning hymn, he wouldn't be there singing with us was another blow for me. I had 10 years with him there every morning, singing whatever hymn I had photocopied for us to open the day with. And suddenly, he wouldn't be with us. Well, I guess it's not so suddenly, but it feels like it. As I was planning his schoolwork and assigning his senior lit reads, this was a big last. He doesn't tend to pick up more difficult literature for fun. He reads it for discussions with me. Just so you know, the way we work it is I usually listen to the same book at the same time that he is reading, so we can discuss it, and we read our short stories for senior lit out loud. And he also reads it because it's required. And most of these difficult books he has absolutely loved. Not everyone, but most of them. But I realized this would be the final semester that I can require him to read a book. So I needed to choose wisely. What would be the most influential? What don't I want him to miss in this life if he never reads another difficult book again? Is it the Hemingway? The Tolstoy? Finish the Elie Wiesel series. Put a period on the end of the choice, because that's it. Once this semester is over, my influence returns to just mother. Then, erstwhile teacher will not be able to require reads from him any longer. At the beginning of his high school years, I mapped out the long and short form literature that I wanted him to experience. But things get in the way, you know? We don't finish everything on our list. With my next entering high school next year, I may plan differently to have him read those don't miss books earlier. But didn't I pick them all because they were don't miss books? How will I choose? Once I say that, I wonder, would I really have done anything differently? I have had him read so many great books. Great authors. Ray Bradbury, Steinbeck, Orwell, Shakespeare, The Red Badge of Courage and The Old Man and the Sea, Lord of the Flies. Our hearts broke together while we read Flowers for Algernon. He didn't care for Dickens, didn't care for Bronte, but he met them on the road of literature. What will he choose when it is his turn to pick from the bookshelves in this life? And in my heart, because a heart can hope, I pray that I've done right by him, with this amazing gift that was given to us in so many things. Right now, I speak of literature specifically. I hope that I've done right and exposed him to enough so that later, when he's done being done with harder books, he may pick one up again and remember that he almost always wound up loving them. Poetry is another one. He has grown so much in his figurative and symbolic understanding, but I don't know if he'll pick up a book of poetry himself. That's just the thing. I don't know. So which poets do I choose for this last semester? Do I choose an excellent anthology to expose him to as many of my loves as I can? Or deep dive, as we so often have, into another great poet? Is the knowledge I've given him on Longfellow, Wordsworth, Blake, Coleridge, and Frost enough? We've memorized so many poems. Which ones do I choose for this semester? I've found newer books on some of our older poets. Do I read those to remind us of our earlier loves, or do I press forward for this last semester, exposing new poets? Maybe return to some old favorites next year with my other two still at home? Field trips, hikes, artists, concerts. So many subjects and experiences in this vein to think about. How often will he be with us after he graduates? How often will he come on these excursions? Sometimes? Hardly ever? I just don't know. I hope sometimes. But how many of us, in a moment of nostalgia, have wished for just a weekend or so where we and our families were all together again, sleeping by the Christmas tree or playing gin rummy for hours by lantern at a campout? How many of those will I miss with my oldest now? Eventually with all of my 4 boys. How do I rewind the clock? But we can't, right? So I have this last 5 months. How do I cram as much learning of the beautiful feast of a living education before him? As we enter this last semester, I get to not have stress about credits and requirements for graduation. I planned out high school requirements when I sat down to ready myself prior to his 9th grade year. He will finish everything and then some in May for graduation. We were almost completed with all of the requirements at the beginning of this year. That feels good. But so many questions, with so little time left to affect it in the same way. When abstract math made no sense to his neurodivergent brain, was it the right choice to go to a stewardship curriculum and then on to computer science, which he is excelling in? We met that decision, as I do with all of their curriculum decisions each year, with prayer and mindfulness. And at this point, what is there left to do but trust? How about life skills? We've been speaking about those a lot lately. I have some time left. How do I use it the wisest? Laundry, washing dishes, vacuuming a room. He has had steady chores throughout his life, but we all have roles, you know? He laughingly told me just the other day that he should really learn how to do his own laundry. Eek, grimace face. Whoops. So since then, I've been going over lists of life skills, making sure he has at least a cursory understanding of how to complete each one. Also, I had given him certain freedoms a little later than I probably should have. He was my first. We also dealt with a large grieving process in our homeschool as a family 3 years ago, and that caused me to hang on to some things a little too long. As a result, this year was the first year he didn't attend our co-op, which admittedly is skewed younger and which my 3rd child is perfectly placed to age with. But now that it is time to let him go even more, do I regret one moment of the times that I held him a little tighter than I should have? I have to be honest, I don't. There's that honesty. I never sought to control his life, but keeping him involved in certain things a little longer kept him closer with our family in location that much longer as well. He's also my helpful boy. It isn't lost on me that next year when he isn't home, who will do certain things that he does? He's the competent one at those things. He is the one, honestly, I count on the most. He is pretty true to form, firstborn. Who do I look to for that help when he isn't home all the time anymore? So there are good things to let go of as well. The full run with him was not very easy. He struggles to submit his best work, to stay focused. He normally just wants to check the box that it's done, so he's fought the desire to be dishonest throughout any and all independent learning. I have had to ride him to do his work well, and sometimes to do his work at all. For some dual credit courses, I have had to stay on top of his grades and require redos of certain assignments. During the early high school years, it was a daily battle to get him to do any of his work. Sometimes it still feels like that, although now it's more necessary to make sure he completes things up to his potential, at least some of the time, rather than checking if he has done any independent work at all. Yet even with all of that, we still have a really great relationship. I will have him on the podcast this summer, so you can hear from a just graduated homeschool about the highs and lows of our journey together, and I will be able to look back a little more effectively and share at the true end. I gave a teaching at a local homeschool retreat a few years ago. The end of my talk asked, how do you know if you've been successful in homeschooling? If your child has read the most books? If they can solve the area of a circle without a calculator? If they won a robotics competition? No. You ask yourself, do they love Jesus? Do they love you? That is the measure of success. And if that is the measure of success, I feel that modicum of victory. Next year, he is planning on taking a discipleship training program with Youth with a Mission. This program, which I also took when I graduated college and then again with my husband in our 3rd year of marriage, deepens your understanding of the Bible, of who God is, and forces the young person to make the faith their own if they want to. Then they spend 2 to 3 months on the mission field learning how to truly put that faith into action. My oldest baby, the one who made me a mother, is choosing to go somewhere to make his faith his own before he greets the world as a man. I have to be honest, that makes me feel like we did something right. And as I said before, we still really enjoy each other. We still like to be around one another. He still comes on hikes with me just because. Buys me a cup of coffee for my birthday so that we can go out together. Offers to help me with whatever I need. Moms and dads, this homeschooling journey, it's very long, sometimes dry and dusty, with no water in sight. Although still truly in the thick of it, there is the light at the end of the tunnel fully in view and growing brighter for me. There are a lot of lasts this semester. That is looming to me with so many decisions, so I am savoring them. You've probably heard more questions than answers in this podcast. I'm sorry for that. But isn't that the reality of what we are doing? Placing our questions every year, every month, every day before the Lord, and praying that we make the right choices, so that when this time comes for each of us, each of you, we can set our babies off, now grown, with confidence that we did all that we could. Those of you listening who are still in or even new to the trenches, stay with it. You can do it. Despite all the long days, and believe me, so many times every day felt like 1,000 years, the years themselves, they blink by. You've heard it too much, I know, but it's true. I cannot believe that I am almost to the finish line with my firstborn. I will continue to pray about so many decisions, but now I'm also holding his hand through those, hoping when I let go and set him off at the end of this summer, that all of the prayer, all of the thought and time and hope and laughter and tears, and sometimes locking myself in the bathroom to have just a moment of peace, that it all of the lasts will have been exactly what I hoped they would be. Worth it to set him on the path of manhood, knowing that we are behind him 100%, but he is ready to be his own man. I so hope this was encouraging to you all. Please follow the show. New episodes every Tuesday. Please leave me 5 stars and a written review wherever you're listening to it. Share it with a friend. Let me know how you like it, and if there are any topics you want discussed. And remember, always, everyone, I believe in you.